Here's how we use the foam roller for post-session recovery. So when we're starting with the calf, what we really want to do is start with the foam roller right up near the Achilles tendon here. When we think about the muscles that we're rolling, we think about segmenting them horizontally, and we spend a little bit of time on each section with the roller. So from this position, Beck's going to then pull her other foot up onto the calf, just to apply a little bit of pressure to her bottom calf here so she can get the roller a bit further into the muscle. From here, we're going to think about that first segment. We're going to roll side to side over it until she starts to find a spot that might be a little bit sore. When she finds that spot there, we hold her on that position, and Beck's going to then flex and extend her foot whilst applying pressure from the top on the way down. This is basically going to help get into that little tight spot and give her a little bit of relief through that, bring blood flow into the area. Once you've spent about 30 seconds on that, we then roll up to the next sort of segment. We think about them in like maybe inch segments up to the next one, and then does the same thing, relaxes her foot and rolls side to side until she finds another sore spot, and then once again flexes and extends her foot here. We continue this action all the way up the calf until we get right up to the muscle belly. Now generally from about the top part of the calf here, you might not feel too much, which is okay, and then from that we just basically go back to the start and go through 2 or 3 times on this, depending on how tight the calf is feeling or what those sore spots are. For our next muscle group, we are looking at the IT band that leads right up into the glute. To make it easier to get onto the band, which sits basically between the quads and the hamstrings, we want to put the roller just underneath the crevice of the knee. From here, Beck's just going to lean to the side and then sit the roller just above her knee into that little thin spot of the IT band there. From this position, she's holding herself up nice and strong with her shoulders. She's going to lift her leg up a little bit and apply that pressure from the top into the roller here. Now, from this position, she's going to want to lift her bottom leg up and roll around, once again remembering the segmentation of the IT band. We're going to go those little inch segments all the way through from the top to the bottom, so from the knee to the hip. Once she finds a spot, she's going to hold on there and then basically just roll around just for a little bit until she starts to feel that release, or about 30 to 40 seconds maximum, whichever comes first. And then from here, Beck's then going to roll up a bit higher, once again to the next sort of segment, and do exactly the same thing rolling over. Now, with the IT band, we like to see a bit more of a hip roll forwards as well, because a lot of times people sit back too far and they actually hit the hamstring rather than the IT band itself. So you want to be loading a little bit further forwards just to get a bit of a roll over here to create that friction with the fascia and the pliability from the area there. Fantastic there. Just roll around. And then we continue this process all the way up until Beck gets right up, just up close to the hip, till you start to feel there's no real pressure on the IT band anymore. We are looking at rolling out the quads and hip flexors. So depending on where we sit in the quad musculature, depends on what we're going to hit. But to start with this one, we put the foam roller in front of us. Beck's then going to come forwards and pop the roller once again, like with the IT band, just above the knee, but she's laying face down now. Now from this position, she's going to once again think about the segmentation and roll laterally over that till she finds a spot that might be a bit sore. Once she finds that spot, what she's going to do is then she's going to flex her knee and she's going to extend a little bit as well. Alright, flex and extend to really try and get the muscle to move so we can really work in and around that spot as much as we can. And then from there, Beck will then roll up a bit more. Once again, 30 seconds to 40 seconds, or until that spot feels like it's releasing a little bit. And then round side to side, once again in that segment, and then flex and extend when she finds a spot. We continue this from the knee right up to the hip. Always want to try and start further away from the heart, rolling up, get the blood flow up towards the heart. That's how we kind of think about it. Roll on the segments and then flex and extend the knee. Once again, we want to spend about 4 minutes, like 3 to 4 minutes for the quads, just as the bigger muscle group. And then we do that probably 2 or 3 times depending on how we're feeling and how our training has been the day before or the day off. So for the last one, we like to look at rolling out the glutes. Now the glutes are a bit of a tougher one because they can be very muscular. So what we want to try and do here is we want to get back into a bit of a 90-degree stretch here. Okay, we bring the foot up onto the knee, pull the glutes up into stretch, the front roller just sitting between her ankle and her hip. From this position, basically going to lift herself up onto the roller and basically placing it just on the edge of her hip where she's getting that stretch. From this position, once again, we think about segmenting the hip, which parts we're looking at, and then once she goes from there, we start to roll side to side over it until she starts to find a spot that might be a little bit sore. If she finds that sore spot or that tight spot, hold on there and basically just try and rotate and move around on it, just so she can start to get into there a little bit more. Now you want to make sure you go right around to the base of the glutes and also out towards the hip as well. And you go a little bit further up and roll around. So the key is to think of those segments. You want to roll on those segments, spend 30 to 40 seconds on them before we move on to the next segment. The last thing we want to think about is that once we've done our foam rolling on whichever muscle groups we've rolled on, we want to make sure that we stretch them out straight afterwards. So once we've applied the pressure, loosen up the fascia and get the blood flow to the area, we want to make sure we then go and stretch it so we can ensure that the muscle is at length before we want to go to our next training session. Just makes things a little bit easier, makes the body feel a little bit lighter, and make sure that you are prepared for the next session using the foam roller.